Welcome to episode 30 of the Flow Ninja podcast. I'm so excited to be bringing you today Tanishka. It's an incredible conversation, an incredible interview. I'm so excited for you to watch and listen to this. So here goes with a little intro for Tanishka. Tanishka is an author of 6 books, including Goddess Wisdom, translated into multiple languages, and The Grail, rated 5 stars on Amazon, which provides groundbreaking insights into the male cycle and how it impacts men's psyche, relationships, and life stages. A former stand-up comedienne, she has captivated audiences around the world decoding ancient mysteries and is renowned as a leader in the global Red Tent movement, having trained women in 44 countries to facilitate women's circles and facilitated men's circles in 10 countries and developed a range of unique online programs to initiate men. Best known as the Moon Woman for the lunar blog she wrote for 11 years to over 500,000 followers, she is heading to Morocco to create a retreat center to initiate men and women into the lost teachings and community practices of the Grail. So, here goes. Enjoy this episode. Okay, so welcome everybody here with another episode of the Flow Ninja podcast. I'm your host, Jody Dean, and today I have with me the lovely Tanishka, who is author of The Grail and other books, right? I think it's not the only one. And Tanishka I met, saw speak in the summer at the Rose Temple at the Medicine Festival. And I was really, really enchanted, mesmerized, taken aback, spellbound, really, with the wisdom being brought forth through you, Tanishka, and I was like, oh my God, I so love what you're saying. It's so powerful, refreshing. It's a transmission, and I'm really ready for this information. So I kind of dived into your book, Tanishka, and have been listening. It's been amazing. It's been so many incredible ahas and revelations and insights, and so I feel very blessed to be able to chat to you today about this incredible work that you're bringing to the world and your incredible book as well, and everything else that you're doing. So welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for being so receptive and also then sharing, inviting other people into that conversation. Yeah, because in the Grail tradition, I suppose one of the parables is about Parsifal, and he doesn't recognize the Grail when it's standing in front of him. So he doesn't ask the questions, he isn't curious, and he only realizes after the moment has passed and it's too late, and then he spends decades searching again for the Grail, which is the wisdom of the mystic feminine, the truth behind the illusion. And, you know, as a woman seeking to initiate men after, you know, thousands of years of programming men so that they didn't listen to women, particularly mystic women, it is my greatest joy when I come across men who have done enough inner exploration that their inner feminine is an open vessel, isn't gullible, but is receptive to listening and appreciating the Grail when it's in front of them. So thank you.
Yeah, you're so welcome. It's just curiosity really that drew me into the mysteries and continues to do so, and the medicine and the healing then that happens and has happened for myself as I've delved deeper. And you know, the masters and the mentors and the teachers show up on the way, and you're one of them, you know, extolling this great work. And I think it's really important for as many people to hear it and know about it today, I think, than ever before in history, because of, you know, what's going on the planet and all the crazy stuff that's happening.
So I'm really excited to kind of dive into this work. Perhaps you could, and I've discovered this as I've been talking about it the last few weeks and months. Some people don't even know what the Holy Grail is or the Grail is at all. Like, never even heard of it, some people. So perhaps
Oh, that
could you,
surprises me.
yeah,
Yeah.
it surprised me too, honestly.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I'm curious, is that younger people you've been speaking with?
not necessarily,
Wow.
not
I'm
necessarily.
really, yeah, that surprises me because, when I think about the success of the book, The Da Vinci Code, which claimed to, finally reveal the Grail, but from my perspective is another red herring, you
Mm,
know, because the Grail is so potent, it has been shrouded deliberately in misinformation and appropriated. So, what we see is well, originally it dates all the way back to Mesopotamia, and then it came through Egypt. And these were such advanced civilizations that understood the alchemical practices that needed to be done to keep everything in a state of balance, on the understanding everything is, interconnected in the quantum field, which, of course, now exoteric science, physics is now validating as we come to the end of this astrological age. But yeah, it was appropriated by and distorted. So the Grail is still a very big part of our lives, but it's in plain sight, hidden. So in the ancient world, it was central to everything through not just those ancient cultures, but then it came through Europa, as she was known, the goddess, and then into Bridget's Isles and Era's Isles, which became the British Isles and Ireland, So, as the wheel turned and we went from cultures that honored the feminine to cultures that oppress the feminine in men and women. The Grail was rewritten. So it was hidden. It was hidden in the tarot, it was hidden in tapestries. But the claims are that, it's the blood of Christ that Joseph of Arimathea rescued as he was, spurting blood on the cross. I mean, that in itself is a heinous claim that you would build an entire religious architecture around a sacrificial lamb and have his followers take in the blood of his pain. Do you know what I mean? As a dark rite, like fed to children from the age of, I think, 8 or 7 when they take of 12. I don't even know. I'm sorry, I wasn't raised Catholic. But, if we actually take a step back and look at it, it's like, whoa, that's really dark occult magic. And so when I remember I went to Mary Magdalene's, where she spent the last 30 years of her life essentially in hiding in France in a cave, and just seeing the dark cloaks of the priests, it triggered trauma in me. It's like the dark magicians, even though they themselves aren't even aware, I dare say, how much they've been indoctrinated into a cult. And every religion is a cult. It's interesting, we use that word, it's a loaded word when we're referring to megalomaniacs that, tell their followers to drink the Kool-Aid, but we don't apply that to the patriarchal religions that still hold more property than any other organization. It's like we all need deprogramming from the cult if we are to move forwards. And I'm speaking to all cults. This is a time of us coming back to ourselves, to our sovereign consciousness, and going, what resonates in my heart is true. So when people come to my talks, the thing I hear most is it resonated as true in my body, or so, and I need to be clear at the outset that the claims that I make about the Grail, there is no, it's all channeled information, but the mysteries were never written down. So the only way to really unveil them in this time of revelations, from the Latin revelatio, to unveil the truth, is for us to remember. And we do that by raising our consciousness, raising our kundalini. So yeah, the Grail, it is the cup of distilled wisdom of the cycles. So that is embodied in the womb of any initiated woman, any woman who has sat in the moon lodge in the red tent every month, distilling what she has learnt as she descended down into her ego humbling, as in her luteal phase, and shed her old skin, her uterine lining, and went, the original shamans were menstrual. So that's where women would distill their wisdom and expand their psychic consciousness, because when we come together, that is expanded. And of course, that's why we were so persecuted. We were such a threat to the empires. You can't have women channeling truth and holding that up as a mirror to those that are seeking to deceive. So yeah, this is the time when the great deceiver is being exposed, and it's unstoppable despite all the censorship. So this new era is the Aquarian age, and it's symbolized by Ganymede, the cupbearer, the man who is holding the cup. He's holding the Grail. And the parable of the Fisher King says that when the men are sick, the land is sick, because they're all one and the same. And so we see the state of the land flagging how the male psyche is in need of healing. And psyche means soul. It doesn't mean mind. It's a Greek word that means soul. So the world's soul is sick. Hence we see anxiety and depression off the chart, male suicide off the chart, men dying in every continent before women. Men are not the victors of patriarchy. Men are suffering from a wound that is called internalized misogyny, i.e., they feel deep shame about the feminine traits within themselves and fear sharing those traits such as vulnerability and sensitivity, even creativity. Men have been persecuted if they have expressed the feminine side of their nature. And so what we see now is this huge polarization. It's like, you're either gay or you're a man's man, and you're hyper masculine and you're buff and you know what I mean? It's like, no, the masculine is multifaceted, as is the feminine, as is our soul, which is both masculine and feminine. So all of this confusion about gender, it's a sign that we need the Grail back in our lives, these community practices that help us live in alignment with the cycles, the only thing that actually governs us, through initiating us through the eternal spiral going up to epiphany and down into humbling of the ego and distilling what we learn on the wheel. That's the chronological wheel of our life. It's the wheel of the solar, the wheel of the lunar, the seasonal, and the planetary transits that initiate us through our 4 life stages.
Yes.
I get on my soapbox a bit. It just comes out like a river. So thank you for your patience. I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, I think so. Yes, is the answer. Yeah. I'm just wondering, just kind of flag up in my mind any other kind of question that might come up for someone who's new to this.
Right.
Yeah. So because you mentioned the Da Vinci Code, because you've got that kind of part in the one of the Indiana Jones movies where they're like the cup, right? Don't know if you've seen that, but they're like
Oh,
the
ignorant.
cup in the
I have to go find that now. Thank you.
Yeah. And again, that's to do with this kind of what was the cup that was the one that carried the blood from, Yeshua on the cross and stuff, and that it was the wooden one because that he was the carpenter, right? So it was the wooden one. It's very Hollywood, it's ridiculous.
Right.
Again, kind of mixing up like the truth with a lot of deception and lies, whether willfully or kind of unconsciously. Still, yeah, that happens, and there are other examples of that with the Grail all over the place. That from my own, experience and understanding. I remember actually, because I was, just in your book yesterday, and about the Green Knight. And I remember we had in my house, my family home, we had a little book that was called The Green Knight, and it was the story of the Green Knight. And I was like, oh, what? It was kind of, it was an enigma to me. What does this mean? What does this really mean? Who is this Green Knight person, and what is all that about? And then you were, talking about that it's really the Green Man, right? And then where that's come from, the Oak King, and that all relates back to these rites in the winter solstice. So it's knitted so many and woven so many threads together for me that were missing, that are like, what is that, right? And what's the holly at Christmas to do with, and this whole thing about the old king and the new king fighting at Christmas, and that was this sort of pagan tradition and all of that. That I was just kind of always like had these questions around it, right? Because there's reading I've done around the kind of pagan origins of Christmas, and but it was still kind of like confusing. Like, what does it really mean? Why? Like, why? Right? What is this old king, new king thing? And yeah, you've so beautifully kind of unveiled that in the book, around the Holly King and the Oak King, and also the sun, being the masculine being the sun, and then the 12 stages of the hero's journey as well, and the zodiac. It's so profound. The 12 solar months. Just like, wow, this is what it actually means, or like that's the meaning I can make from it, which makes much more sense to me than whatever other stuff that's around. And so that's been deeply illuminating for me. So yeah, and I'm sure other people who will read your book, The Grail, or listen to it, will also, have that revelation of what all of this is really about, and where all these traditions have come from, because it really is this kind of journey of the self, and that makes much more sense to me than this trying to cobble together, kind of piece together the stuff from the past, and kind of asking, what is it really, what does this relate to me in my life now? Is it just old traditions that have passed by, or is right? But from reading the Grail, from your book and that transmission, it's so much more obvious that it's about the inner masculine, the inner feminine. It's about this dark night of the soul. It's about personal growth. It's about this self-illumination and the mysteries. And it's just like, yeah, well, of course, that's kind of the human journey, whether you're in a masculine body or a feminine body, and how much wisdom there was originally, and how it was got codified in these myths and legends and customs and traditions. So yeah, a lot of kind of sense making happening for me with your book, with the Grail.
Yeah. I mean, those that choose to incarnate into a male form are rationally dominant to start their journey as young men. And so equally, women are emotionally dominant, and we're all trying to find our way to the heart. Yeah, which is where the sovereign lives, which is, the key is in connecting to our feelings. It's like, does this resonate? How does this feel? And so for men to have a guide who is intuitive, whether that's a woman, and my understanding was it was a menopausal woman, a woman who had journeyed the cycles and so embodied the triple face maiden mother crone, or a Merlin, a man who has reached the sage phase of his journey. And of course, we start off soul dominant, 0 to 7 years, then we become rationally dominant from 7 onwards. And our journey is to become soul dominant again, which is more attuning to the inner self, to the unseen realms, the place of the feminine. So it's in midlife that men are most receptive to initiation. I mean, nowadays, as we come into the energies of the Aquarian age and we see it in our youth, there's more androgyny, there's more acknowledgement that we are all gender fluid, you know, and that we are here to create a culture that allows the full spectrum of who we are as souls to be expressed. But, you know, obviously first you need to heal the foundation gender that your soul in its wisdom incarnated into. But yeah, for men to receive intuitive truth, it's like Excalibur, the sword. It cuts through all of the white noise, the confusion, because you won't ever solve a mystery rationally. So when we look at all these pieces of a puzzle, it will be through an aha moment, a lightning bolt out of the blue, that it's, you know, whether we wake up from the dreaming with, oh, okay, I've got it, you know, like the great scientists like Einstein, you know, or Carl Sagan, or today Nassim Haramein or Greg Braden, you know, they're also Imagineers, you know, they consult the intuition, or they're receptive to what the dreaming is going to show them. They're not just trying to all figure it out rationally. So, you know, this is why Arthur was said to never lose a battle, because he had Excalibur, he had intuition. If he didn't know what to do, he would go within and go, okay, show me. Yeah. Speak to me, give me a sign, give me a knowing, just quiet the 10% rational mind and attune to the heart, knowing this is where truth lands, you know? Yeah. And I feel for the brothers that are, you know, it's exhausting to overthink, you know? And for women, we often need a very different meditation practice to men. So men really do well with stillness, with focusing on the breath, you know, more austere, disciplined practices that quiet the mind. Whereas for women, we've got so much frenetic, creative, Shakti energy. We can't just put the handbrake on and sit there quietly. It's like the noise gets dialed up. We need to move. We need, you know, ergotropic, active meditation, such as shaking, dancing, chanting, drumming, you know, women were the original drummers. So, you know, we need active meditation. And I'm very excited to be seeding a community where, you know, I'll be inviting people to come and live these Grail practices in alignment with the cycle, so that we start the day with an active meditation at dawn, you know, as the masculine energy is generating. And then when you know, in the afternoon, that's the time of more reflective activities. So, you know, we do our 5 hours of work for the day in the morning, and then we have a lovely big lunch, and then a siesta, or make love, you know, or write poetry. And then in the late afternoon, there's a subatropic meditation. There's deep reflection, whether that's gazing upon beauty in the garden, or, you know, looking at the horizon as the sun sets. But, you know, and then in the evening, it's pleasure, which is communion with the goddess, you know. And, you know, we've been taught that pleasure is evil, pleasure is temptation, therefore that the feminine is evil. Even in Joseph Campbell's work, he speaks of woman as temptress. And this for me is, you know, understandable, but dangerous. That we need pleasure. We need the essence of pleasure, which is called soma in the tantric tradition. It calms the nervous system. It is a medicine in itself. You know, nowadays people, you know, drinking cacao and things, it's like, yes, but we need to extend that beyond cacao, you know, and be in right relationship with pleasure, not abuse it because we're so elevated in our nervous system from overworking, overthinking, that it takes something very extreme to get us out of our heads. You know, if we're not pushing ourselves so violently, thinking that we are linear like machines, part of the machine, which now at this crossroads, as we prepare for Pluto, the planet of death and resurrection, to move into the sign of the new age of Aquarius on November 19 for the next 20 years, this is the time to choose. Are you going to become one with the machine, one with the total surveillance state, one with technology, artificial intelligence, which seeks to replicate because it cannot create? It's not connected to the divine source? Or are you going to choose to unplug from the matrix and become one with the Gaia consciousness, with the divine design, with the Fibonacci spiral that is our blueprint for ascension, but ironically done through embodying the earthly senses and honoring them as equally sacred, and therefore experiencing, like the Sri Yantra, the union of heaven on earth through us as the holy vessel.
So beautifully put.
Thanks for giving me, you know, they just speak through me, you know, or my higher self, whatever, but thank
you. There is a lot of confusion in the world, and I feel like this work is helping dispel that. You know, even I don't know how many people will read your book. Who knows, right? How long has it been out for?
So, first publishing date was very hippie, the 22nd of the 2nd, 2022. Yes, it was, you know, thanks to my dear friend Tony Roseman, who literally stayed up all night formatting that book to get it out on that pub date. Bless him for that portal. And then we did a book launch that night in Australia in Byron Bay, which is, the birthing place in the Australian Indigenous mysteries. So, but because it's self-published, and I did that deliberately, I could not afford for a secret. I mean, the words secret and sacred were once interchangeable, and I could not afford that to be in the hands of a large publishing house and potentially be distorted or squashed or whatever. So it will be through the Grassroots network, through the whispering campaign of word of mouth, which is how one would find one's way to the mysteries. If your heart was true, if you really were a seeker of the Grail, if it was that important that you discovered the truth, you would find it because you'd put in the effort to go looking, and you'd meet someone on the path who would say, go to this place. So I'm feeling for this new community, this mystery school that I'm seeding, that it'll be just a simple old-fashioned calling card. It won't be a website. You know, it'll be through word of mouth. Yeah. So those who are ready will hear about it.
Yeah. So so it's been out for what, like a year and a half, maybe a little bit more than a year and a half. Okay. You got the physical book, you got the Kindle book or the ebook, and then you got the listening audio book. So I've got the Kindle version and the audio version, and for now that suits me because I'm travel, right? So it's like books are a deal.
Yeah, and it's a big book.
Big fat one. Beautiful cover as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, really lovely, evocative, strong cover. And I remember, because I came across it last year in Glastonbury. I was at this shop, the kind of Tantra shop, and then I was invited to like a kind of men's circle thing. And there's someone, I think a guy called Loki, he was with the book. And I was like, what's that? Oh, wow, that looks interesting. That calls me immediately. And then he explained to me that you'd come, this woman called Tanishka had come and given a talk. And then she invited for the men to meet, to self-organize and meet once a month, etc. And so they were doing that. And I was like, oh, this is so interesting. And that's how I kind of, found it originally, right? And yeah, so I feel like as you say, like the whispers, it will be carried on the whispers, and maybe someone who's listening to this podcast, watching this podcast, this video, is going to go, wow, this is interesting. So I'll do my best to put it in the description, a link or two, so people can find it there. And yeah, download themselves a copy or whatever, right? Purchase or whatever they're going to do, or just go and find it and to listen to it on the Audible, I think it is, right?
Yeah, it's on Audible. I think it's on Spotify. It's on iBooks or iTunes, both. But yeah, I did that deliberately because dyslexia affects more men than women. The main inspiration for writing this book was to help heal the collective psyche of the brothers. And yeah, so it made sense to put it into a format that was most accessible for them. And on that note, I would dearly love the opportunity to create a documentary about the Grail if anyone's listening that is, whether they're produced documentaries or a cinematographer, because again, I think that would make it more accessible given that we live in a very visual culture. And, when we're overworking, sometimes our mental state is so overwrought, we actually can't settle down with a book. It's actually too much of a jump, whereas watching something is a bit easier. So, I trust when it's the right person and the right time that will come to pass. But I see that in my mind's eye.
What a
Yeah.
great idea. Yeah. And also I noticed, because I came across your website, I think because you shared it, didn't you, in the talk at the Rose Tent, which is the-grail.com. I came across that, and then you signed up so I could watch this 4-part kind of visual presentation that you give, which was great. It was so insightful and helpful. So I just wanted to put that out there as well for anyone watching. That could be a little gateway in for people to get kind of get a more of a visual kind of input with
Right.
voice as well in the background, sharing these some fundamental kind of truths around the Grail. And is there anything you wanted to share around that piece?
Yeah, so the reason for that, so my usual website is themoonwoman.com, which is not a name I gave myself, I might add. But when I was wanting to reach men, I was mindful that, that was very much, more of a feminine focus, that website. And so I created the second website, the-grail, grail.com. And there's a 4-part video series which addresses the question, why would a woman initiate men? And how was that once part of the Grail tradition? Because after, as I said, thousands of years of men being told not to listen to a woman or you would suffer, whether that was Eve or Pandora or, or the mother-in-law jokes or, it's just so all pervasive that that was the elephant in the room that needed to be addressed first. So I speak about the Magdalens and the role of the Magdalens in initiating the men. And I also give away what the Holy Grail was. So for anyone who's curious, it's a key to the door, the key that you would be given at the age of 21 in the ancient world, which was the key to the mysteries. It's my role is simply to open the door and to be a threshold guardian. which is what the role of the Sphinx was, you know, she who guarded sacred knowledge. So, yeah, if people are curious, that would be a wonderful place to start. So thanks for suggesting that, just because, you know, it's education, but in small bite-sized pieces, and it boils it down to, you know, the most important facts. And if you then want to go into the full mystery, you can check out the book. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to share that because that was helpful for me as a way in as well to kind of go deeper with your work. And, you know, I think it's wonderfully presented, very professional. So yeah, it's an easy way in. But I think if anyone finds themselves here listening to this, watching this, you know, like they're definitely, you know, the next thing could be to do that and also maybe get the book anyway, because you're gonna, you know, find so much value in there because it is so kind of important. I feel like these kind of universal principles are so important for people to understand, both men and women at any stage in their lives. These are like really key things. And speaking of keys, I always wondered what the whole key thing, like presenting of keys thing. I've come across this in my life. You know, so and so was presented the keys of the city as this kind of bestowing them with a kind of, you know, an accolade or a kind of, yeah, like, you know, we honor you kind of thing, but never understood what it meant. I mean, what is that all? Why would you have the key? What keys for what? You know, like what? So when, you know, and I've came across that when you share it in the book, and it's like, oh my goodness, it makes far much more sense that it's about the mysteries. It's about having the key to the mysteries and the understanding of the self. And of course, it's been kind of then shrouded somehow, and so we don't understand.
Yeah, I'll show you. So I'm wearing the Ankh, which is a key, just so you can see that. And, you know, it looks like in the Indigenous Australian mysteries, when they portray the soul, it looks like this.
Really?
Yeah, so it looks like, you know, a being with the halo, you know, someone who's awakened the life force, the Kundalini serpent, to, yeah, have revelations, have that expansion of consciousness, but also, you know, we see it's got the arms out in that position of surrenderedness. You know, it's not an image of torture, you know. Yeah, it's yeah, actually the greatest power symbol there is, but it's one of humility, surrendering to the divine, you know. But the keys are also like the keys of the scale. They're the keys to the 7 gates, the 7 energy vortices within our matrix, you know, our light body, known as chakras or wheels of light in the Sanskrit tantric tradition. So, you know, Mari was just one Magdalene, and she was a priestess of Isis, the Great Mother, whether you knew her as Ishtar, you know, the ascended Venus, the woman who'd found her wings. She was known as Tanit in Morocco, Tanis in Ibiza, Ashtara, Esther to the Hebrews, but all one and the same. But her name means star. So the star is that symbol of hope, but of our stellar nature, you know, of us remembering that we're not just animal, you know, but that we are eternal, pure cosmic light, which is love. And so, yeah, that thing of following the star, it's following our guidance. I got off on a tangent then. I know what I was going to say. So Mari, the Magdalene, like all of the Magdalenes, their preparation was to do the descent of Venus, which is to journey to unveil the shadow or the wounds and the strengths of each one of the 7 aspects that map the feminine half of the psyche, the soul. And once one had unveiled that, they were ready to unveil for their beloved. And so, I mean, I've initiated women through that path for nearly 30 years. I started in 97, and then I think it was 2020, I started initiating men into the equivalent path, which is to meet the 7 faces that map the facets of the masculine. And when we do that, we open those, those insights, those aha moments, open the 7 eyes of God, as they were known in the Sufi tradition, but they're the doorways to the 7 dimensions. So when we speak now about making this shift into the 5th dimension, like the band in the 60s, the 5th dimension, used to sing, "This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius." We are opening the 5th dimension. We're opening the throat chakra as a collective. And this is the energy center of healing. It's the energy center of brotherly, sisterly love. So this is the essence and the frequency of this new 2000-year astrological age. So I've actually got an event scheduled in England before I leave, coming up this month in November. And it's all about healing through brotherly, sisterly love, because, the final chapter of my book, not a spoiler alert, but it's about the power of love. I start with the quote by William Gladstone, which was paraphrased as being Jimi Hendrix's quote, because he had, acknowledged him, which is, when the power of love overcomes the love of power, then will the world know peace. And the last chapter, the 13th chapter of the Grail, speaks about exactly how we will do that. And it's through the coming together in unity consciousness of opposite polarities, of feminine, masculine, really seeing each other's vulnerabilities and flaws, our humanness, with compassion. And that's where brotherly, sisterly love comes in. So then we can embrace the divine potential of each other from a place of deep reverence and gratitude. Whereas if we're coming to each other, seeing each other from the lower dimensions, the lower chakras, we're seeing each other, I see men look at younger women on trains like they're a steak they want to eat. It's very predatory, it's, I want to devour you, I want to seduce you, I want to own you, I want to control you. And both sexes do that to each other. So, that's how we've been conditioned to enter into union, from that place. And we wonder why we have a divorce rate of 50%, So the ancient path of sacred union is entered into via a conscious courtship. So we meet from the crown down. So it's a slower burn. It's not like we see in Hollywood films, the race to the bedroom, throwing off the clothes and, devouring each other like 2 wildcats on the side of a mountain, as much as we might want to. It's about, okay, let's have 7 conversations. Let's have 7 unveilings, so that we come together naked as souls. We have established deep, deep trust, a container of deep safety, before our animal selves get to feast upon each other in, the love feast, as it was known.
Wow. Profound.
So the future looks bright. It's one of great love, great love. So all the work that we're doing now in that furnace, which is so uncomfortable, particularly now with this solar maximus, we've got, oh God, scientists are predicting a year of, solar flares, solar storms, and coronal mass injections, activating our light body, bringing up our shadow, expanding the grids, awakening the dragon lines of the earth, which are the meridians of sacred feminine, masculine in us. So this is it. This is the threshold crossing. We're in it right now. We're in the birth canal. And within this next 20 years, we're going to see the pole shift. We're going to see the return of Nibiru. the planet that is the embodiment of Isis, the winged disc coming back to initiate us. We're going to see earth shift, earth changes, and we're going to see the shift into the photon belt. So the photonic band, which our solar system moved into the end of 2012, our sun has already moved into, but our planet has not yet fully moved into it. And we will know it. We will not miss it. There will be days of darkness as we move through the outer rim, and many people will project their fears of the dark. And that's what the feminine is. It's the unseen, the dark. So we need to be in right relationship with the feminine. We need to seek mystery into the feminine, be in right relationship with the dark, to embrace it wholeheartedly, knowing that the dark births the light. The dark is not the enemy. The dark is not evil. So when we fear it, when we avoid the dark, we conjure our worst fears about the dark. And so we resist it at any cost. And in doing that, we stay immature and we stay in hell. The dark eclipses us. That which we avoid chases us.
Absolutely. So true. So true. Yeah. Interestingly, because I'm right now in Crete, and also you mentioned briefly about the Minotaur, right? And the labyrinth. And here I am. And the Minotaur has the battle axe, right? Which symbolizes, as you said, yes. Can you speak to that?
Yes. Okay, so the double-headed axe is a very ancient symbol of the feminine beheading the male ego. In Sanskrit, the word for scythe is akin to yoni, the sacred doorway, the genitalia or the vulva of the feminine, the doorway of death and birth. So hence we see Kali, the dark goddess, the archetype of the primal feminine that governs the base chakra, often holding a man's skull and dancing on his grave, or wearing a necklace of skulls, which looks fucking horrific to somebody that doesn't understand it's all metaphor, that a man needs to have his rational mind beheaded by the dark feminine, the psychically powerful crone primal feminine, in order to meet his true self, which is his soul, to be set free from the torment of constant over-analysis and paralysis. So, she is ironically his savior in that sense, not the temptress. An uninitiated woman is a temptress. She will distract a man from the path with sex that is just sex. It's like, but there's no raising of consciousness. There's no, it's not a soul-fulfilling union. It doesn't lead him to face his deepest fears, and in doing that, liberate himself. Yeah.
Yeah. All of that. And you go into that in depth in the book.
Yeah, I wanted to speak to the Minotaur, if I may. There was that great show that came out recently with Jeff Goldblum playing Zeus called Chaos on Netflix. Have you seen it?
I haven't. No.
It's a romp.
Is
It's
it?
so timely, and that it's called Chaos as we enter, the feminine principle is chaos, and she's the one that initiates us into the loss of complete control, which is what's now happening on the world stage and in all of our lives. Everyone is going into a state of chaos. And this show, it has the Minotaur, which is the son who has been abandoned by his father and locked in the dungeon, unloved, unseen, unheard, and he becomes a monster, which is so emblematic of the wounded masculine, the man whose true self is not seen. And when we're not seen, we feel loved when we feel truly seen, which is why I have loved sitting in circle with men, facilitating men to call out the parts of them that don't normally have a voice, you
Mm.
know, and seeing the brotherly love that happens in that safe container, you know. And the interesting thing, by having a woman, a Magdalene, facilitate, it means it takes the taboo of homophobia out. By having a woman there, it invites the feminine traits out in men in a way that's safe. You know, it's more like a motherly presence, but a spiritual mother, you know, just saying it's okay. You're not going to be shamed. You're not going to be punished. You know, you're not going to be persecuted if you express your soft underbelly. Yeah. And that's what's needed for men to find their inner strength. Otherwise, they compensate like a pufferfish, you know, trying to look like the Hulk or a Hummer vehicle, or, you know, this overinflated male ego, which is, I'm scared, I don't know how to be a man. I know I'm meant to be strong. I know I'm meant to look intimidating. I know I'm meant to always be accomplished and know what to do and say. And the irony is 99.9% of men don't, because their fathers didn't, and they were underfathered. Their fathers hid from them because they didn't want to be exposed, like the Wizard of Oz, the small man projecting this impressive persona, you know. So only by men coming together in safe spaces and acknowledging, fuck, I don't know what I'm doing. You know, I need support as a father, as a husband, as, you know, a man finding his way after thousands of years of conditioning that told me my value was, you know, working for the empire, whether that's in corporate, whether that's being expendable as a gladiator, an athlete that entertained the elite. You know, we need our men to find their hearts, and then their hearts will lead them home.
Mm. Mm. Beautiful. So true. Yeah, so true. And another thing, with regarding the double
I just
sided.
looked at the clock. It's 11:11. Sorry. Go on. We're in alignment.
Yeah, 11:11 with the double bladed axe. I was at the earlier in the year, I was in Phaistos, which is on the more on the east side of Crete, and it was a major, yeah, kind of center of the Minoan culture. And I made a video about this, and it's on my YouTube channel. You know, I meditated there, and I received healing, and it was incredible. It was such a beautiful initiation. And what I noticed is that there's this motif, right, which is this line with two curves at the end like that, which one could say represents that axe, right, the double-sided axe. And so that brings new meaning to me right now. It's like, ah, yes, okay, yeah, and I've also seen it as a kind of motif in some light language somewhere I saw as well. And like, oh, maybe this is also like a galactic symbol as well. So interesting. So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah. And also the triple phase, you know, maiden, mother, crone, the moon. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. So that could also be representational. Interesting.
Mm. But
Interesting.
yeah, to meditate on those symbols is so powerful. And yeah, I did ceremony there last year. And
Phaistos.
yes. Yeah, very powerful place. I had a flashback and I saw ceremony where they were doing the Grail. There were women dancing with serpents, and the people were lined up, and they would rip off a piece of bread, dunk it in the one Grail cup in the wine, and eat it. And I was moved to tears by how happy the people were. It was a good life. You know, it was a wonderful, you know, they were living in community. They were happy. It was not a time of war. You know, we've been conditioned to think, oh, that's our nature, we fight. Actually, no. During the age of cancer, there was no war for thousands of years. And yeah, the lovely brothers that I went with, they held space for me, and I found some Minoan music on Spotify, and one of them identified where the temple was in that ancient ruin. And he guarded the gate, the ancient sort of ruins of a doorway, while I sat in there and meditated, listening to the Minoan music, and had that flashback. It's a beautiful place. And there were cats there. I'm always so happy when I see cats at temples. You know, it's like, the energies are still here, they're still alive, you know. And I was in Egypt for the equinox, and there were cats at both Hathor's temple, which was a tantric temple. Dendra, the word dendra means to weave, and so does the word tantra. And also at Isis's Aset was her original name, temple on the Nile, which was the sacral chakra, lots of cats. But interestingly enough, at the solar plexus, the temple of Horus, and also at the Great Pyramid, the pyramids of Giza, dogs. So we see the energies of feminine, masculine, by the guardians that are still there, you know. Yeah.
Wow, that is interesting, isn't it? Wow. I'm also interested in, because I've just written this book about my experiences of Avalon. Yeah, like what your experiences have been. And you do mention Avalon a little bit in the book, but I'm curious because I'm feeling that another phase for me might be to kind of compile different seers' experiences of Avalon. So I'm genuinely curious, what yours are. Because I just feel like I'm in the beginning of that journey in this life, right? I mean,
I think that would be a wonderful offering to collate all of those, you know, and I'd be very happy to contribute. Likewise, I'm also feeling, like just when I was in Egypt for 10 days, I literally wrote a book with all of the flashbacks and experiences that I had.
wow.
And in speaking to you now, I'm remembering the month I spent on Crete last year doing ceremonies at portals, and the experiences I had with the archetypal energies that are waking up in the land. So I'm feeling that is going to be a book that, just through speaking it, by writing it down, we're helping these energies to return, these ceremonies to return, the ancient ways to return. We're validating this is true, this exists, and it's been sleeping, it's been dormant, held within the matrix of the Gaia consciousness. But as we remember and bring them back to life, it's like the lotuses in the land can open and the consciousness flower.
Yeah, I love that. So, and just with this book that I've just got out there, the Avalon Revelations, I wanted it to be like purist in that is just my experience with a little bit of reference, and I intentionally didn't read around it, didn't read any other books about it. I didn't want it to be some scholarly work. I didn't want to have input from anywhere else, suggestions of what things. I just wanted to have my own, because that's how it happened for me. It was like turning up in Avalon, and then suddenly kind of having this revelation. Oh my God, this is like incredible. Whoa, oh my goodness, these energies and this, whoa. And then I go here and then this happens and this activation and then this being comes through me. And it's just like, wow, okay. So I wanted to keep it as kind of a direct kind of experience as possible. Also to kind of go, maybe, look, you out there, you could also be having this experience, like, right? Like go and where are you drawn to? What's going on for you when you go to that place? Have your direct revelation. My credentials are that I just allow it to be myself to be open in a channel and experience it like that. There's no other credential. I'm not certified in being a priest of Avalon or priestess or whatever. Right. It's just like my direct experience. And that's, I find that exhilarating to from other people's, reading other people's experiences, like Celestine prophecy or whatever, right? Like when they've like had their thing and then they're like, okay, this is what happened. And then we can also do that dance of like, we have our experience, our revelation, like you just had in Egypt or in Crete or whatever, and you're like, oh my goodness, wow. And then that kind of contributes to a body of knowledge that's intuitive in that capacity. And then I'm interested to kind of, now I'm more interested in, okay, what are other people's experiences? And that's what kind of why I'm asking you as well. And then wouldn't that be cool, like to get a whole load of different people's intuitive experiences, and then
Yes.
also see what the, see what
Yeah.
these are, right? And go, oh.
And that would make an incredible documentary as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that you speak to that because, we were being called to the portals on the planet,
Mm.
and then in came mandates saying we couldn't travel. And then the cost of flights and the narrative about, we shouldn't travel because of carbon and, and the mother is calling us. When I was at Uluru, which is the center of Australia and considered the solar plexus of the world, which is why the abuses of power were so severe in Australia in 2020. She said, tell all my children to come. She wants to have you all come to her, and I know I was called there for the Saturn-Jupiter conjunction on the 21st of December for the solstice 2021, and they literally locked it down. They wouldn't let anybody in, and I had people judging me, you shouldn't be going, and I'm like, I'll go wherever spirit directs me. If I'm told I need to be there at a certain time, I answer to something that's not the laws of the 3D world. So I did my own ceremony outside of, the whole national park. But so I was situated between Uluru, and I literally, the clouds parted and this blue light came out. It was freaky. Others saw it that were also called. And I've since met other people traveling around the planet who were called to Uluru for that same Stargate. So,
Wow.
it's so important that if we get that call, that we go, because it will change us. This land that I'm now going to in Morocco to create this temple space, this mystery school, it's only come in very, very without any effort on my part whatsoever, because I followed that call, that leap of faith to step into the unknown. I sold my car, but I gave everything else away. And spent the last 2 years circling the planet, doing ceremonies at portals on the land and doing free events. Used up my inheritance. Like, oh my God, from a rational perspective, it's like, what the, crazy lady. But the land is what initiates us. The planets initiate us. So we each have a piece to play, and we are part of the grid. So where our heart feels expanded, it's like, oh my God, I just feel so happy here. It's like we need to be there. And the rational self will be very challenged by that. It's like, well, no, this isn't what I thought my life would look like. This isn't what I thought I should be doing. I'm sure it's the opposite of what, people around you are telling you you should be doing. But we need to notice where we feel expanded and where we feel contracted. And often that's because shards of our soul are in those places. So we're doing soul retrieval by going to those places on the grid, and we will find our tribe. Like for me, Morocco, I've lived in many places, as we all have, in many incarnations, but when I sign my name, I sign it with the 5-pointed star. That's the symbol on the flag of Morocco. It's the ancient symbol for Venus, and that's who I serve. I serve love. So of course I end up on that land. Of course she welcomes me in and says, here, this is the place you can finally rest. Because I've been looking for home. I've been looking for my soul monad, the group that I will create the vision that is our gift collectively to humanity with. And it's like, now it's time. So because we're all interconnected, I know it's time for all of us. And so it's important we listen to where is Gaia calling us home. And there we will find, you know, like Dorothy, home is where the heart is. We'll find the people that most align with our heart, whether they're locals or whether they've also been called there.
Mm. Mm. Gorgeous. Yeah. Allowing the land to guide us and speak through us. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, funny, I was just sharing about my friend Sophie, and we were here in Crete, and her whole story with the land that she inherits, and her allowing that land to speak and vision through her, and then what she wants to birth. And I feel like this is also like a call out to all people who are owning land or inland to listen to the land and ask, yes, what do you want from me? What do what is wanting to emerge through me from you?
Yes.
Mm.
Yes. Each, so there's many divas or spirits of place.
Mm.
Yeah. And, when you enter a place, if there's a lot of strong divic energy, if there's a lot of elementals there, a lot of, earth spirits there, and just to acknowledge them, they're so happy. They're so happy when you say, oh, hello, because you come to the land like the very young, full of wonder and mystery and awe, understanding that everything has a consciousness, everything is alive, and everything is wanting to connect and communicate with us. And then, we drop the cynicism, we drop the separation, and we come home to living in the magic and the mystery of life again. So, yeah, like Findhorn, that the elementals help them to grow these uber-sized plants on very sandy soil, which doesn't make sense. In fact, I had a dream. It was a very vivid, lucid dream back in 97, the year I spent living off-grid in the Otway Ranges, where I had a Kundalini awakening. And this was before I'd heard about Findhorn. And it was a flying dream. And I was flying over this garden, and there were cabbages, super-sized cabbages, and growing in a circle around a cabbage that was like this big, huge. And the next day, the book, The Making of Findhorn, fell out of the bookshelf at my friend's place and hit me on the head. And that was when, I learned about Eileen Caddy receiving these visions literally on the toilet in a caravan park, the only place she could get any peace, about this community that she was to create, that was to live in communion with the nature spirits by listening to them, where to plant, where to build. There's another wonderful book called The Elves of Lily Hill Farm, written by a scientist in the 80s who saw and worked with elves in America. And, they taught her so much about viticulture, about how to grow very robust vines for making wine that produced a much better yield than the modern practices. But yeah, so it's like we need to acknowledge that the Gaia consciousness is multidimensional, that we are multidimensional. I know when I lived in the Otways, I had elemental beings chatting to me telepathically, teaching me about companion planting, where to plant things. And when I looked it up in a book, it was absolutely what they'd told me to do. But they were so playful. I was sitting on my bum in the dirt and just laughing my ass off with them. Like, they are attracted to laughter. So the more we live in joy, yeah, the more we invite in all of the magic and mystery, all of the dimensional beings that want to commune with us. And to me, that's what living in sacred union is. It's not just, you know, sacred feminine, masculine coming together in, you know, a man and a woman, or, you know, homoerotic unions, because we're all feminine, masculine. It's about us living in a state of communion as multidimensional beings with everything that lives in the multiverse. Yeah.
So yeah, so truthful, so beautifully put. Yeah. And yeah, actually, on the subject of Findhorn, I was playing the Transformation game. I don't know if you know it.
Yes, I used to have a copy. I got it in an op shop secondhand. Yeah,
Well done.
great.
Yeah, I was playing it earlier this year with a couple of friends, and wow, it was like orbs were happening in the room, and that game was birthed from that land and what happened there, and they talk about how it's like a David consciousness that, runs the game, and it's so true, it's just like, wow, that's a bit of fun that I've, had recently with the Findhorn kind of stuff, with the transformation game, and yeah, planning to do that again soon, play it with people. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I wanted to circle back to more kind of fairy tale stuff, because it just popped into my head when I was listening to your book about the seven, gates. Do you feel that Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs is to do with that? Yeah. Because I was like,
Yes, I do.
seven dwarfs. Like, what are their names again? Is that something to do with the gates? Like, yeah. So, yeah. Speak
Yeah.
to.
It's funny you should speak to that, because a girlfriend took me spontaneously through Brandon Bay's journey practice after choir last week. And when we were sitting around the campfire, Snow White came in. And it was kind of like, in Shrek, all the fairy tale characters were there sitting with me. And that's actually the little village in Germany where that story originates from, is where some of my ancestors are from. But yeah, so it's it's like a watered down version of the myth of Ishtar. So Venus in the Mesopotamian mythology, who descends through the seven veils of illusion, just like Psyche did, or Persephone, willingly goes to the dark, goes to the place of nothingness in order to be free of distraction, to meet oneself, to meet all the parts of yourself that you're afraid of. So hence she goes to the woods. She has to run away from the dark mother, which is her own inner critic.
Mm.
Yeah, just like men have this duel with Captain Hook, like Peter Pan, which is like Darth Vader, the critical dark father. Yeah. And if we're always running away from the dark inner parent that we've internalized, rather than turn to face the bully in ourselves, we stay immature. But we have to go and we have to face how we're our own worst enemy in order to awaken the benevolent parent, the good king, the good father, or the nourishing mother, yeah, who has good self-care practices, who looks at us with love, or the father who praises us instead of punishing us.
Mm.
So those are the archetypes that sit in the heart. Okay, so I spoke about at the age of 21, people were given the key to the mysteries. That's when men would traditionally go to the forest for the first time to meet with the Magdalene.
Which was the
In the
stag
holy,
night. What
the
was
stag night, yeah, exactly, to prepare them for union. And um, this is when the Kundalini, the life force, moves into the heart to awaken the inner parents, because every 7 years, as we grow, the energy is working through awakening a different energy center. So 0 to 7 years of age, it's in the base. So we run around like a wild child eating sand and mud. And, we don't want to put clothes on. We just want to be part of nature. And then age 7 to 14, life is more emotional for us. And we're learning what to do when we're all at sea with all these big emotions, as Aries and Aphrodite. And then age 14 to 21, the youth, the teen, This is when we're journeying the lower mental body, the archetypes of Athena and Apollo. And what are my opinions? What do I think? What do I stand for? Who am I? What's my identity? And then at age 21, when the fourth cycle of 7 years starts, we enter the heart. And this is when we've got the showdown with the inner dark parent. And if we don't have midwifery for that, we stay trapped at the consciousness, the maturity of the teenager. And that's, you know, what we see prevalent on the planet. Hence, in the West, people in that state of individuation, like a teenager, yeah, living alone. You know, we've got more people living alone than ever before. Like, I don't need anybody, I can do this on my own, or trying to do everything on their own, thinking that they haven't earned their success unless they've hard won it by their own merit without help from others. But the opposite is true. You know, we need the sum of many to create something extraordinary, you know, and we need to collaborate, we need to work together, you know, like a SWOT analysis. We need to acknowledge our strengths and our weaknesses in order to work cooperatively to create something that is both beautiful and functional, feminine and masculine, you know, balanced. Yeah.
Wow, that's a deep dive. Thank you for your precious time.
Thank
And
you.
all the gems of wisdom that you shared. You know, again, like anyone who's listening, watching this, you know, the next step could be to get the book or go to the website and watch the 4-part video series to get really involved, right? And start to kind of integrate this understanding into your own mind and heart and see where you stand right now on your path and your journey with this information, this body of material, which can only help, really, can only support you in your journey away from suffering and to illumination.
May I do a quick shout out for the live events that I'm doing in the
Absolutely, yeah, please do, yeah.
So, yeah, this is an invitation for men and women, all ages. There's 2 events. One is a seminar, and it's mapping how relationships are like a game of snakes and ladders. And when we're triggered, we either step up the ladder or we unconsciously slide down the serpent. And so this seminar is illustrating how there are 3 stages of feminine masculine expression according to whether, you know, we're operating at the level of the child, the teen, or the adult. So whether our masculine or feminine expression is unconscious, semi-conscious, or conscious, and how that plays out as interpersonal dynamics in our relationships. Not just intimate relationships, all relationships. So the unconscious power dynamics. So for me, the essence of Tantra is about doing the shadow work, looking at where we're not empowered and taking our power back by looking at what we're doing unconsciously and how that's hurting us and others and sabotaging love and happiness. So those seminars are happening in Glastonbury on the 9th Saturday of November and in Lewis on the 16th of November. Then on the Sunday, there is a forgiveness ceremony that again is for men and women. And these events are for everybody, regardless of whether you're single, in a relationship, regardless of whether your sexual orientation is, you know, gay, lesbian, hetero, or how you identify your gender as. It's for everybody. And these ceremonies are very powerful. I've done them, started doing them in 2013. And basically myself and a beautiful man, Russell Halil, will be co-facilitating a preparatory circle for men and women. And then we come into a mixed circle to acknowledge the ways that we've all been the victim and the perpetrator, so that together we can heal our hearts through brotherly, sisterly love. And we work into that, the Ho'oponopono chant, the beautiful Polynesian chant. And it's yeah, a profound experience, and an experience that everyone comes away from feeling just so grateful and so seen and heard and soft and loving. So there are 15 places for men and 15 places for women. It's essential that we have equal numbers. So if you're interested, if you feel the call in your heart to be part of that, knowing that what we do, we don't just heal in ourselves, we heal in the collective. I'll give you the link to include. Bookings are essential. So yeah, thank you for letting me share those.
Yeah, absolutely. Where can people find out more information about that?
I'll give you a link. I'll give you
Yeah,
a link
okay.
to include.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time and wonderful wisdom, Tanishka.
Thank
It's
you.
been an honor. It's been an absolute honor. Yeah, feel enriched and fulfilled.
Thank you. Thank you. And thanks so much to everyone who stayed with us till the end as well. Because I know we live in a time where we've got short attention spans, and time is so precious. So thank you.
Yeah, well done, everyone.
Okay.
Yay
Yeah.
for you. All righty. Thank you so
Okay.
much. And
Ciao for now.
yeah,
Yeah.
ciao for now.
So, guys, I hope you enjoyed that incredible conversation. For more on Tanishka, of course, you can go to her website, The Moon Woman, or the-grail.com. And yes, I'm looking forward to interviewing her again in the near future. Now, for more about me and what I can offer you, or rather, how you might be able to advance in your spiritual journey, your path of self-realization, and also growing as a spiritual light worker, entrepreneur, visionary, and activating your path of purpose and impact and ascension, then I do offer these accelerator calls. They're 20 minutes, they're gifted, and that's a chance for you to get some true clarity about where you are out in life, what's going on for you, what challenges you're facing, and then a chance to activate your highest timeline, your highest vision for your life, and moving forward as a bright, radiant light and being in the world, effective and impactful. So if that's you, then head on over to my the link actually in the description here, where you'll be able to book your call. I think that's the best way. And also, for more information about me, check out my website, jodydeane.com, JODYDEANE.com. And you also get to have some fun watching inspiring and educational videos about spiritual awakening and life purpose and authentic self-expression on my YouTube channel as well. I make a couple of videos a week at the moment, maybe more. Depends. I go through phases, but it's at least one or two a week. And so that's over at youtube.com/@Flow Ninja with a capital F and a capital N. There's also should be a link in the description. All right. Have an amazing life. Don't be a stranger. You don't have to do it all on your own. And yeah, blessings to you. Bye for now.